Have you ever helped a friend, but deep down, felt quietly grateful that it wasn't your problem to carry? You may give to the poor, but part of you feels a subtle, quiet relief that you're not the one reaching out. You may offer advice, but still feel a slight, almost invisible pride. These are thoughts no one talks about, whispers we deny, even from ourselves, because to admit them feels like betraying the very goodness we try to embody. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Even our kindness can be laced with ego. Even our generosity can be a quiet performance, sometimes the urge to help. It's about us. It's about power, about control, about the secret sense of superiority that hides inside the kindest of acts. We like to believe it's compassion. We want to think it's empathy, kindness, or even love. But what if I told you that sometimes helping others isn't about them at all? Sometimes it's about power, about control, about a secret need to feel superior. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, believed that much of what we do, especially the things we praise ourselves for, are not as selfless as they appear. Behind every generous gesture, every noble deed, there may be an unconscious need, not for connection, but for elevation. You see, the human ego is a subtle architect. It can disguise itself as virtue. It craves recognition, validation, even dominance. And it often uses morality as a mirror to see itself as superior. When you help someone in need, it feels good. That warm sensation in your chest. The story you tell yourself. I did the right thing. I'm a good person. But what if beneath that warmth, there's a silent whisper? I am better than them. I am stronger. I am needed. Freud called this the narcissism of small differences. Even in closeness, even in acts of love, our egos are searching for leverage. A subtle hierarchy. To help is to place yourself above. To be the giver is, in some part, to have what the other lacks. And that imbalance can be intoxicating. It doesn't mean you're evil. It means you're human. And being human is messy, contradictory, layered. You may help a friend through heartbreak, but secretly feel grateful it wasn't you. You may donate to the poor, but silently feel relieved that you're not one of them. You may give advice, but feel superior for having figured it out first. This isn't to shame you, or to say that kindness isn't real. It is. But real kindness, the kind that transcends the ego, requires radical honesty. The ability to look inward and say, part of me wants to help, but part of me wants to feel needed. Part of me enjoys the pedestal, the spotlight. It's only when we admit this that true compassion can emerge. Because true compassion isn't loud. It doesn't need a thank you. It doesn't need an audience. It doesn't come from a place of superiority, but from deep equality. Helping not because you are above, but because you recognize yourself in their struggle. Because at some point, you were them. You might be again. And that knowledge humbles you. Freud's insight is uncomfortable, but also liberating. Because it shows us that even in our flaws, there is a path to depth, to maturity, to self-awareness. You begin to notice which parts of you want to serve and which parts want to be admired for serving. You start to ask, would I still help if no one knew, if there were no praise, if I gained nothing but the act itself? That is the question that dismantles the ego. That is the door to something higher. So the next time you feel the urge to help, pause and notice. What part of you is reaching out? And what does it truly seek? Not all helping is healing, and not all healing comes from being helped. Sometimes it comes from seeing yourself clearly for the first time. Helping others isn't wrong. It's deeply human. But when it becomes a mirror for your self-worth, you no longer see the other, you only see yourself. And that is where superiority is born. True wisdom, Freud would say, doesn't come from silencing the ego. It doesn't come from pretending to be selfless, or from building a perfect image of virtue. It comes from something far more difficult, from seeing the ego for what it is, without flinching. From recognizing the quiet satisfaction you feel when you're needed, the subtle pride that surfaces when you're praised for being the helper, the shadow of superiority that lingers behind your good deeds. You don't need to reject these parts. You only need to notice them. Because when you become aware of how the ego dresses itself in humility, in generosity, in spiritual language and moral high ground, you begin to understand that even your noblest instincts can be laced with self-interest. And that doesn't make them meaningless. It makes them real. It makes you human. The danger isn't in having an ego. The danger is in letting it hide behind the mask of sainthood, unquestioned, untouched, unchallenged. That's why real wisdom isn't clean. It's messy, uncomfortable, raw. It demands that you peel back the layers, even when they're wrapped in praise, even when the world applauds your kindness. Because only when you can see your own shadow at the peak of your light can you act from a place that is truly free. That is the kind of wisdom Freud spent a lifetime chasing. Not the kind that flatters the self, but the kind that shatters the illusion. You're not alone in this realization. The deepest thinkers throughout history, from Jung to Nietzsche, Lacan to Kierkegaard, have all pointed to this uncomfortable dance between self and other, ego and empathy. And now, so do you. Reflect, discuss. Because the real transformation doesn't happen in silence. It begins when the hidden parts of us are finally seen.